Greetings, YouTube. I recently watched the film I, Frankenstein, which isn't good. I'll probably do a review of that at some point. But it got me thinking about something. In the film, Frankenstein is amongst supernatural creatures, which got me thinking that did the director feel that because Frankenstein, the creature, exists in the world, does that open the door to all supernatural creatures? Was the director seeing the creation, the creature, which is known as Adam in the film? Is he seeing Adam as a supernatural being? Which got me thinking: is Frankenstein's creation a supernatural being? Now, if you look at classic humanoid animated entities, the one that pops into my mind, first of all, is the Jewish golem, which was a clay creature animated through magic. And that is undoubtedly a supernatural being. Though I don't think most people don't pronounce it golem. I believe they call it, I've always pronounced it golem. And it's become a staple of fantasy. And D&D has taken it to absurd levels. There are flesh golems and stone golems and iron golems and adamantine golems and silver golems and crystalline golems and wood golems and there are, for every conceivable animated substance, there's a golem out there for it. But I think a lot of people view Frankenstein's creation as a flesh golem, except Frankenstein wasn't using magic. Now, if he had used necromancy, it would undoubtedly be a supernatural being. If he had used the magic used by Jewish Kabbalists to create the golem, undoubtedly it would be a supernatural being. But Frankenstein used science. And you may say, well, he created life. Of course that's a supernatural being. But he didn't create life. His goal wasn't to take inanimate clay and turn it into a man-shaped object. His goal was to take human body parts and create another human. There's a difference there. We do that. Organ donation is taking human body parts and allowing another person to use them. And when you're carrying a heart in a little cooler with dry ice to get it from point A to point B so it can be installed into a human being and save their life, or any other organ for that matter, that's not necromancy. That's not magic. But that object, that thing in that cooler, is most definitely inanimate and not living. It is a thing. But when you put it back into a human, it once again functions as a living, breathing organ. In the case of lungs, literally living, breathing organ. So that's not magic. And Frankenstein is just trying to do that on a much bigger scale. Instead of bringing an organ from one person to another person and allowing it to continue to function as an organ, he's trying to get an entire body pieced together from different people to become, once again, a functioning, living, breathing entity. So is that supernatural? Or is it just science applied to its ultimate goal when it comes to the dead flesh? I don't have an answer here. I find this fascinating. Now, I can tell you my opinion, which is I don't think it would be considered a supernatural being, or he, because he's not, in my opinion. He's just a transported heart or lung or liver that's been reanimated, because that was Frankenstein's ultimate goal. Which also got me thinking about what happens if you have a world where zombies kick in and it's of a magical nature, and the people who have transplanted organs have their organs go zombie on them. That would be bad. But I thought I'd open this topic up to you folks. What do you think about Frankenstein's creation? Now, it is interesting that when Adam wakes up, he's a blank slate. He is a child. Whoever occupied that brain before, the pattern of that person is gone. And in the film I, Frankenstein, there's some debate about whether or not Adam has a soul. And that's an interesting debate. I haven't really pondered that one yet. But it's intriguing that in every version of the Frankenstein legend I've ever heard of, I've read the original, I've read many stories, and I've watched many films. The mind is always blank, and they essentially have to reteach that creation how to be a person. So why doesn't anything go through beyond the animal level stuff? What happens to that pattern? Where does it go? Is anything left over? They touched on that in Mr. Patch with Will Wheaton, which was an interesting film. Not great, but it was interesting. But it was all along the same concept of bringing someone back from pieces. But in that case, there were residual memories. So tell me, do you think that Frankenstein's creation, in this case called Adam, is a supernatural being? Or is it just a heart or a lung brought back from the dead and reused like we do all the time? And no one thinks of a person with a replaced organ as a supernatural being.